Many of you guys know that DraftKings has been one of my favorite stocks and one of the most talked about stocks on this channel, as I am extremely bullish on both the gambling industry and DraftKings as a company. And so our moment of truth has finally arrived. Tomorrow morning, right before market open, DraftKings will be reporting their earnings for Q4 of 2021, highly anticipated by a lot of investors, especially considering the downtrend that DraftKings has been on in the last 3 months and 4 months and so. DraftKings is down between 40 to 60%, and it has absolutely destroyed a lot of investors. And there are a lot of reasons for that. So this earnings report is going to be crucial because the last thing you want to see is an environment where a lot of growth companies are already getting destroyed, and then for them to go and report bad earnings. That's the last thing you want to see. I mean, you guys have already seen what happened to companies like Roku and Roblox and even like Palantir and things like that. And last thing I want to see is something like that happen to DraftKings. So I want to get you guys prepared right now because I don't want there to be any surprises, and we're just going to go over everything. So let's talk about it. DraftKings is going to want to observe, and by DraftKings I mean investors. Investors are going to want to observe how DraftKings existing business performed during the football season. That's one of the things that we're definitely going to want to see. Investors are also going to want to see how DraftKings performed since expanding into other states like New York, which was huge win for the company. And then we're also going to want to see those customer acquisition cost numbers, which has been one of the main talking points for the Bears. And that's something that they've been running with forever regarding this stock. And so in the 9 months that ended in September 30th, DraftKings has earned $822 million in revenue, which is very good. And management is guiding for revenue of $1.26 billion for all of 2021. Now, with that being said, revenue growth has not been the primary challenge for DraftKings in 2021. We know this. They're a revenue monster because people like to bet. Instead, the focus has been on the high degree of cost to achieve that growth. That's what you're going to want to be watching. You know, in the last 9 months that ended in September 30th, although DraftKings made $822 million in revenue, DraftKings has lost $1.2 billion on the bottom line, and that's what's got investors so nervous about this stock, and that's a big part of why DraftKings has been getting demolished lately. And so, in terms of Wall Street expectations, analysts expect DraftKings to report revenue of $444 million and a loss per share of between 78 cents to 80 cents. And if it meets those projections, then it would be an increase of 37%, and then it would also be a decrease of 14% respectively from the same period a year ago. And so here's the main thing with DraftKings that you want to pay attention to, because this is all that matters at this point. We already know that sports betting is going to be a huge growing industry. We already know that DraftKings is making a ton of money from sports betting. We already know that a bunch of institutions are still in DraftKings. We know all this stuff. But here's what we don't know yet. And the only thing that we really care about is this. Do they have a clear path to profitability? That is the only thing that is going to matter tomorrow. Do the numbers show that in the future, DraftKings will become a profitable company? Or do the numbers show that they're just burning through a lot of cash to acquire users, and they're eventually going to go bankrupt because they're burning so much cash, and they're burning too much cash compared to the amount of revenue that they're bringing in? That's what's going to be significant and something that you're definitely going to want to pay attention to tomorrow. I know there are some people who like to buy call options and buy puts and things like that right before earnings. I don't agree with that at all. People are free to do what they want to do, but I don't agree with that at all. My plan is to wait until after earnings before I make any of my decisions. Now, in terms of buying, on January 26th, DraftKings went to $18, and you're damn right I bought some shares. DraftKings went to $18, and I bought a few shares. I couldn't help it. I'm like, okay, this is too cheap. And so far, DraftKings hasn't touched $18 yet. It's been hanging out between $23, $21. It's kind of been hanging around that range. So buying at $18 was great. And, I saw a good price, and I bought. But now that we're close to earnings, that was back in January, but now that we're close to earnings, there was no buying for me. I'm going to wait to see what happens after earnings because that is going to be key for this stock. Now, given the fact that more and more states are allowing sports betting, analysts are also going to be very eager to hear about DraftKings outlook and guidance. And that's something that we need to know as well. Is the guidance going to be better considering the fact that DraftKings has expanded pretty well these last few months? They've been making some moves. And now we're going to want to know what's the outlook looking like. And those are some few things that are going to be extremely important. But I could just tell you guys right now, if there's anything in that earnings report tomorrow that investors don't like, I'm just going to be honest with you. Do not be surprised if DraftKings goes to the gutter again. Now, I know some people think there's no way this company could tank another 20-25% because it's already down about 60% within the last year or so, something like that. And my response to that would be, don't be so sure. There's nothing, the stock market is a brutal place. There's no rule that says that these companies can't go to zero. There are no rules regarding that. So just don't be surprised. I mean, DraftKings, I don't think DraftKings will ever go to zero. Don't get me wrong, but could it go to $17, $15 if the earnings report is bad? Yeah, it can. Yeah. Institutions are weenie baby. I'm over here sounding like me, Kevin. I've been watching all his videos making fun of him. Institutions are weenie babies too. So, institutions will sell out. I mean, look at what happened with a rival stock. There are a couple institutions in there and they got out of there quick. So with DraftKings, you are definitely going to want to keep a close eye on those earnings reports. And this is going to be the moment of truth. This is going to be a make or break moment for that stock because depending on how bad the earnings report comes, it might be time to give up on that company. I mean, we really are at the moment of truth. I mean, a lot of us, including myself, bought the company at $40. The thing got cut in half essentially. And, can we really take another halving of the stock at this level? Like imagine it going from $23 to like 15 or 14. That would be horrible. But if the earnings are bad tomorrow, it could. But here's the flip side. If the earnings are good or great, the stock could run. It really could. If people think that this stock could really be profitable, it might look good. So if you're my honest opinion, I think DraftKings is going to beat earnings. I think they're going to smash earnings. That's honestly what I really think. I don't see why they wouldn't. We just had the NFL season. They just expanded. I think they're going to beat earnings. But, one thing we learned about earnings is you just can't predict this stuff. And you also can't predict how the market will react to it either. So best believe as soon as earnings come out, I'm going to make a very detailed video. That might be the longest video I ever make. I might make a 20-minute video completely going over all of the earnings and everything that's said. But looking forward to the earnings report tomorrow. Can't wait to see what happens. Still very bullish on this company unless the earnings report or the management tells me otherwise. But yeah, definitely looking forward to the earnings tomorrow and can't wait to see what happens. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in about 14 hours when DraftKings reports earnings.